Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. It is Barefaced Nikki here today. I don't think I've actually done an introduction with no makeup on whatsoever, so it's a little bit weird. But today I am going to be talking to you guys about colour correction. I'm going to show you guys 3 ways that I colour correct dark circles and hyperpigmentation as well. Now, colour correction was quite intimidating for me when it first came about, and I first learnt about it really because there was like the red lipstick that went crazy, and then there was the bright orange that people were putting underneath their eyes, and for a very long time that is how I did it, and a lot of people know colour correction by that for dark circles anyway. I'm gonna just quickly give you a little bit of background. So if you guys look at the colour wheel, the way in which colour correcting works is that anything that you can see on your face, so I have like bluey, purpley under eyes here, and they're quite severe, quite pigmented, and then I've got darkness around my mouth area here as well. Anything that you see for that colour, so for example like purpley blue, you would look on the opposite end of the colour scale, or whatever is opposite it, and in this case it would be like a red or an orange, and that would be the colour that would help neutralise. So when you see a lot of these kind of colour correcting palettes with like purple, green, yellow and orange in them, they're for multi-purpose. The only ones that I'm going to go over today are going to be for dark circles, for a tan skin because I'm obviously tan, and for hyperpigmentation, so darkness. I'm just going to quickly let you guys know as well. So I have darkness around my eye area. It goes all the way up onto my eyelids, and I don't think this is necessarily to do with sleep. I think it is hereditary, because it doesn't matter how much sleep I have, they will always be this dark. And I also have a lot of pigmentation or darkness around my mouth area, which I've always had. So the first way that I'm actually going to show you guys is the very typical way using an orange corrector. Now the reason why I'm using an orange corrector is if I look at my dark circles, they are quite brown. I've got a little bit of green veinage going on here, and they're a little bit purpley. So something that's going to be orange or reddish in tone for my skin colour is going to help me neutralise this darkness. Now just to make this a little bit easier for you guys, just to explain, so if you were of a deeper skin tone than me, then you would go in with more of a brighter orange. It all depends on your skin tone. Now if you were my shade or a little bit darker, then you would use this matte concealer palette, which has got this tone of orange in, so you guys can see like the difference. This one's a little bit purer. And then if you were of a fair skin tone, you probably would use something more salmony, something like this, which is more of a salmon color. So I just wanted to get across to you guys that dependent on your skin tone, the color of your skin will depend on what color corrector you would use. Now some of the correctors that are on the market are of course the MAC concealer palettes. They've all got the color correctors at the bottom, so they've got like the salmons and the yellows at the bottom, and then you also have like a dupe for that, which would be the NYX one, for literally like half the price, and it looks more or less exactly the same as the MAC one. They do these ones in different shades as well. And then you've also got the LA Pro Girl, and this one is in the shade, I'm assuming it's just going to be like orange or something, but you've got like the LA Pro Girl concealers, which I really like, that are very pigmented, and you've got that in a pure orange. Now for shade reference, I am an NC43 from MAC, just to give you guys an idea of my colouring. But to start off with, I am just going to be using the Vein Thermal Spring Water. This is just going to help hydrate my skin, as my skin type is more of a dry to dehydrated skin. So once I'm happy with that, I would actually go ahead and put on my foundation. The reason why I'm going to do this is because it is up to you. Some people like to conceal before they put foundation on. I actually like to do it the other way around. I'm a little bit backwards with everything. The only reason being is because I find that if I'm going to put my foundation on, then my foundation, even though it is going to appear a little bit ashy to start off with because it's not going to be corrected in the correct way, I will already cover some of the dark circle and some of the hyperpigmentation, so then I will, in my head, it seems like I will use less product to conceal, if that makes sense. I'm going to be using the Duo Corrector by MAC, and I'm actually going to be using the Burnt Coral side, But what I actually like to do is I like to place the burnt coral just on a dish like this. You want to make sure that when you're putting the orange on, you're not putting way too much on, because that means that you're going to in turn put on way too much concealer on top to get rid of the oranginess, if that makes sense. So what I like to do is I like to do that, and then I like to take the rich yellow that comes with it and I like to put it next to it. So I actually like to take these two on a 224 brush and then mix them together, and then I'll apply that to my darker areas. So a little goes a long way. You just want to actually apply that to where the darkness is, and I find that mixing that orange and that yellow together really actually helps and neutralizes. Going into that orange again, I'm just going to brush that around my mouth area because I have a little bit of pigmentation there as well. Now I hope you guys can see that I am all oranged up, and it has really neutralized all the darkness from when I had no makeup on, which is a bonus. But we can't leave it like this. We need to neutralize this orange now. So we are just going to use a concealer. This concealer is more or less kind of matching to my skin tone, which is going to be perfect. And we're going to pop the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in Caramel just over all of the areas that we've placed the orange. Now I know I might look a little bit crazy, but I actually like to dab. These NARS concealers literally run out so quick, it's so annoying, but I like to dab as opposed to swipe with them over the orange, because I don't want the orange and the concealer to kind of mix and have a baby. Now once you look a little bit crazy like this and you've popped all your concealer on in the places where you place the orange, we're just going to take a damp beauty blender again, and we're just going to dab, use dabbing motions, not swiping motions at all, just dab that concealer in. Now once you've blended everything out, I feel like it is fair to say that it has really nicely corrected using the orange method. So I'm going to be using the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Micro Finishing Pressed Powder, and I believe that this is in the shade 02. It kind of just looks like a banana powder, if you guys can see it here, just a very yellow powder, and the yellow is just gonna complement my skin tone, or the undertones of my skin, and it's also just gonna help brighten the under eyes as well. So taking a MAC 129, which is just a blush brush, I'm just gonna dab into that yellow powder, and then I'm just gonna dab that on top of my under eyes. I don't want to swipe with this because I don't want to move the concealer and the corrector that we've worked so hard for. I'm just gonna dab underneath, and that's gonna help brighten the under eyes. So guys, this would be the first way that I'm gonna show you guys how to color correct. It is typically the way that a lot of people know, and I feel like it does do us justice. It does cover the hyperpigmentation and it does cover the dark circles, but it is an awful lot of work. Now the next way I want to show you guys how to correct is probably going to be really useful for some of you guys that love MAC concealers or MAC products. I would use an NW shade. Now my shade is NW35. Now the reason why I would use an NW shade, NW stands for neutral warm. Neutral warm are tones that have more of a pink tone to them. It is so confusing and so difficult to get your head around, because when you think warm, I'm assuming you think of like oranges and yellows and reds, things that are warm colors. But it actually means more pink. Now NC means neutral cool. NC is the shade of my skin, and NC is more of an olivey yellow undertone. The reason why I'm going to use NW is because it's got that peachy tone to it. So it's, again, instead of using the orange, it's got more of a salmon tone. So it's going to help just counteract the darkness. So I'm going to be using MAC's Select Cover Up, and this is a sheer to medium coverage, and it is in the shade NW35. I'm going to be using this underneath my eyes, and then I'm going to be using an NW40 shade around my mouth in the Studio Finish Concealer. So it definitely is more of a peachy tone, and it doesn't feel right putting it onto olive skin, but I promise you guys it will work. So what you want to do with this is you want to kind of just place it in the darkest area. My darkest area happens to be just that inner corner, and a little goes a long way, guys, with this Select Cover Up. And then just buff out the excess. Like, I don't need much down here at all or out here, so I'm just going to buff out the excess, and you can see that that has already color corrected my under eyes. I don't actually know why I don't use the NW anymore. It works a treat. Now for around my mouth area, I am going to be using the Studio Finish in NW40. I wouldn't typically use this. I'd like to use a liquid around my mouth, but I don't have an NW40 in a MAC liquid, so I'm going to make do with the Studio Finish. Just taking the Studio Finish cream on a fluffy brush is already going to kind of like diffuse it and dilute it a little bit, so it's not going to be so thick and pasty. So now that we have got the NW35 around my eyes and the NW40 around my mouth area, you guys can see that it has neutralized a lot. Now you can leave it like this, but I want to go in with my NYX HD Concealers in the shade CW07 and CW04. I'm going to use this shade CW07 because it's more or less the same exact colour as my skin. And then I'm going to use this tone, which is actually called CW04 Beige, and it is actually more of a yellow tone, but it is lighter, so it's just going to help highlight my under eyes as well. So now that we're looking a little bit cray, we're just going to blend all of this out just using a damp beauty blender, making sure that we're using dabbing motions, not to move any of the correcting that we've placed underneath. I wanted to give you guys options, so for setting my under eyes this time, I'm going to use the MAC Mineralize Loose Powder, and this is in the shade Medium. I absolutely love this stuff. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I used to bake with this all of the time, but I'm just gonna lightly set my under eyes just to get rid of shine and to stop any creasing that I might have if I was to wear this throughout the whole day. So this is a little something what it's going to look like if you're going to use the NW tone from MAC, and then I advise to use something of your natural skin tone on top of that. Now if you are a fairer skin tone and you're already more of a neutral warm, then the NW is going to be fine, and it's going to correct already, if that sort of makes sense. I really don't want to confuse you guys, but it is already going to correct, so you won't be needing to put anything yellow on top. I just need to put something yellow on top because my undertone is more of a yellow. Now the third and final way I'm going to show you how to cover my dark circles and my pigmentation is actually my go-to. I feel like it's my favorite because it is the quickest, it is the easiest, and I guess it just kind of all goes on in one, and I don't need to do layer after layer. So for this one, I'm actually going to be using the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. I absolutely love the Pro Longwear Concealer. It probably is my favorite concealer of all time, and that is a big statement to make. This is because it is a medium to full coverage straight off the bat. You don't need a lot, and it literally is like cement. So once you pop it on, like if you go to a MAC store and you try it on the back of your hand, give it like 30 seconds to set and you can't remove it, like you can't smudge it, which is why I like it, and it's really good for me because then I don't get as much creasing underneath my eyes as well. Now the reason why I'm going to be using the shades NC45 and mixing them with is usually NC42, but this time NC35, is because I'm going to get that orangey tone from the NC45, but it is still a yellow tone, and then I'm going to get the lightness from the NC35. So mixing them together is going to make my skin colour, but it's going to be that little bit more orangey, so it's going to counteract the darkness as well, all in one. So I literally will just pop like a pump of NC45, and then I'm going to do the same and pop a pump of NC35 on top of that. Then I'm just going to mix the two shades together. I'm not going to mix them thoroughly. I like to keep them separate in case I want a little bit more dark or I want a little bit more light. Oh, that was close. That was close. And then I'm going to pop that straight onto where the majority of my darkness is, hitting them dark spots and then blending out, and you can see how this automatically neutralizes, but is the same tone as my skin. And then I'm going to use my beauty blender and I'm going to blend everything out so it's really nice and airbrushed. Now for the darkness around my mouth, because it is a little bit darker, I'm going to take my damp beauty blender and I'm just going to go into more of that NC45 so the pigment is a little bit more orange, and I'm going to dab this just around my mouth area to color correct this area. Now for powder, I've actually recently discovered the Kat Von D Brightening Powder, and this is in the shade Golden. I'm going to pop this just underneath my eyes to set, and it's going to help brighten. So this literally is my go-to way of doing my base and my concealer, and I do swear by that powder. So I thought it was only fair if I did a full face to follow up the color correction, just so you can see everything all together and how nicely it all does blend. I've just given myself kind of like a light dusty smoky eye, and then bronze skin, and as per usual a nude glossy lip. I've got one more tip, would be to really smoke out your lower lash line. So I've been using the Kylie bronze palette, that's what I've done my eyes with today, and then I've used this shade here and also this shade, which is a little bit like Saddle from MAC. Just mix them together, and you really just want to kind of buff out your lower lash line, and that is going to give the illusion, well I feel like it gives the illusion, or it kind of makes the dark circle disappear. It takes any distraction away from where that concealer starts and where that concealer ends. So guys, that concludes my color correcting video for dark circles and hyperpigmentation. I hope you guys found it somewhat helpful. It has been a hot minute and I feel like I have come a really long way since my last pigmentation or covering dark circles video. But I just wanted to kind of break it down for you guys, and I wanted you guys to understand what you were covering, why you were covering it, and what would help you cover it. I suppose that's what I was trying to do, and I hope it's not too complicated, and I hope you guys really did enjoy the video and that you learned something new. As per usual, if you're new to my channel, then make sure that you subscribe down below, and I do love you guys so very much. Leave me all your comments down below because I do read them all and I try to get back to all of you, well, as many of you as possible. And that's it guys, I'll see you in my next video.